Hey guys, I'm working out Dark Odin. I'm gonna go ahead and record an early attempt just to give you an idea, and I'll be optimizing this over time. Alright, so on turn one, we're gonna use a shifted stack of Tifa, a shifted stack of Sephiroth, and a shifted stack of Laura's LB. Louise is gonna quad cast Ionic to fill LB gauge. Ling is going to Passionate and Refreshing to Mirage the party. And we're going to Fire Resist with Aerith. Alright, so we're looking for, on turn one, the boss to use all light attack. If the boss does Hellblaze, like that right there, we take a little bit of damage, so we're just going to retreat and come right back in. You could gear Sephiroth and Tifa in 20% fire resist and ignore this turn one RNG. You will have no RNG. But for more damage, I don't want to gear any fire resist on Seph and Tifa, so we're just going to rely on RNG here, which might take one or two tries, but we will get there in a moment. Every little bit helps. So turn one is the only RNG turn. Because Sephiroth and Tifa are not... There it is, all Light Strike. There we go. And we miraged it. Because Seph and Tifa are going to be in the base form for the rest of the fight. That is wearing resist gear. So, to the base form with Seph and Tifa. We're going to now shift Louise and do a stack of our shifted LB. Before we start doing all this, let's have Aerith dual cast. We're going to reflect someone and bounce Protectka onto the boss. So there we go. We're going to stack up Louise. We're going to go to the base form with Laura and just normal attack. We're going to use Tifa and Seph to just Rallying Cry in the base form. And just repeat Ling, who is going to do double Mirage and a little bit of LB fill. So we're not using any light resist on anyone because we don't need it. We're using Mirage instead. Okay, so we're going to go to the base form of her, and then shift her and put her to the shift form. Okay, so we're going to get a stack of Laura this turn. Ling will just fill again. The rest of the party is going to do that chain count mission this turn. So we're going to triple Stardust with Tifa and Seph in the base form. Aerith is going to quad. We're going to do... Banishka 3 times, and then Protectka, just as something else. And then we're going to do 3 times Ionic, and then Modified Gear Power Boost. Make sure you're doing it in that order. And go ahead and chain everyone together. That'll give us the 100-point chain score to get it out of the way. Okay, and the reason for Modified Boost is that'll cure the Imperil off of Louise next turn. We're about to get imperiled, and we're not going to be doing, you'll see, basically. Okay, so there's the imperil, and Louise auto-cures her imperil. Sephiroth is going to single-target imperil cure on Laura, because these two are not using enough resist gear. The rest are wearing enough resist gear to be immune even with the imperil. Aerith can go ahead and reapply Bar Farega. Tifa is going to just Rallying Cry. We can just repeat the Mirage and etc. on Ling. Louise is going to shift and get a stack of her shifted LB. And Laura is going to the base form and just normal attack to fill her LB. Or you could just eccentric. But you don't even need the normal attack anymore, because her elbow is already filled. Anyway, so there we go. Okay, so now on this turn, Ling is going to sing Zidane's STMR on turn 5. We'll go back to the base form with Louise, and she'll just Ionic 1 time. We'll just eccentric. Seph will just Rallying. Tifa will just Rallying. And on this turn... turn 5, we're going to use Reflect on someone and then bounce a Protectka onto the boss to keep the boss nice and healthy, because we're going to be doing some stacks and all that with Laura, and we don't want to push thresholds and all that. Okay. So turn 6, we're going to use the base form LB of Tifa and Sephiroth. We can just repeat these two, and then Aerith. Don't repeat Aerith though. Aerith can do literally whatever you want. Just don't bounce, reflect, and protect until the boss on this turn, because we're going to be killing on turn 10, and we needed to use only bounce to reflect on turn 5. That way it's gone by the time we need it. Alright, so there's the Imperil again. So this time for the Imperil, we're going to use Louise to summon Fenrir, and then Tifa is going to Bushido our own team. Because we use Fenrir, it's going to Mirage it and take 0 damage. That just gets rid of all the Imperils in our party. We can just reload and do Eccentric again with Laura. It's going to help refill LB gauge later. Sephiroth on this turn is going to use his Magnus, and Aerith is going to put up Fire Resist on turn 7 because we dispelled ourselves. Okay. So turn 8, we're going to have a little bit of randomness coming in, but not too much. Alright, so turn 8, first thing we're going to do is we're going to shift Laura and use her volatile ammunition to 90% defense break. We're going to shift Aerith and do her shifted LB for the stat buff. Alright, Tifa is going to go ahead and get her Magnus going now. Alright, let's see. Sephiroth is going to Rallying Cry. And then in the base form, Louise is going to double Ionic, use her Magnus, Incapacitate, and then Firestarter for the field. Okay. Alright, so that has mostly filled Laura back up. We're going to use some Rallying Cries to fill her the rest of the way in just a second. Alright, so let's go ahead and Rallying Cry with Tifa. That filled Laura the rest of the way. Now we're going to use her Queen of the Jungle for the killer buff. And now Sephiroth can Rallying Cry as well to refill Laura. Let's see. Louise is going to shift. We're going to do 3 times Ionic and a Disarming Blaster. That's going to fill Laura's LB gauge quite a bit. And then Aerith can quad. We're going to do double Flame Fang, and then Ardent, and then her cooldown for Rod Imperil, and Human Killer and all that. Okay. Here is the kill turn. Now, if you can figure out a way to get Laura's LB refilled at this point, you could swap Ling for Mastermind Zahn, and then steal Laura's killer and spread it on this turn. But because I tried it a few times, I just absolutely could not fill Laura's LB gauge with Zahn in the party instead of Ling. So I swapped Ling in. So Ling is instead on this turn going to use her 150 Human Killer buff for the party. And then we're going to do Dragon Dancer to fill the LB gauge for Laura, because I just couldn't fill her gauge on this turn. Her durations are too short while singing Zidane's STMR song. Anyway, we're now going to shift and do the damage. We're going to use Sephiroth to cap. We're going to do Tifa to LB. We're going to shifted LB with Aerith to chain with Tifa. And the Tifa and Aerith LBs are going to be our chain that the rest of the finishers are going to be capping. Louise is going to cap, and Laura is going to cap as well. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do my damage just to see an idea of how much damage this team deals. But then I'm going to immediately stop the app and cancel it so that I don't actually kill the boss, because I don't want the boss to start charging me 20 energy per attempt, as I can keep it at 1 energy per attempt and keep practicing. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then as soon as I see the damage, we're gonna close it down. So we will, and then I'll come right back in and show you the gear. So let's go ahead and see what kind of damage we deal. So we're going to chain the Aerith and Tifa, and then everyone else is going to cap that. So let's go. And I'll see you guys in just a moment. Okay, guys, we're back to the beginning of the turn. Anyway, you saw that we did 4.6 billion with this team. Let's go ahead and retreat so we can keep that boss at 1 energy so I can spend a lot of time practicing on the boss and optimizing without having to spend 20 energy every single attempt. I'd much rather keep it at 1 energy for now. Anyway, here is the team we used. So, and again, this is an early draft. I am still going to spend a lot of time optimizing, so look for later in the either today or just later in the week, as I can really, because I really want to figure out a way to get that 200% buff stolen from Laura while still refilling her LB gauge, and there might be ways to do it. I'm thinking maybe just skip Louise's damage entirely, because I think the bigger killer is going to contribute more total damage than Louise contributes on capping on the kill turn, and then on the kill turn I could use like 4 times Ionic Blaster to top off Laura, which would probably work. But for now, this is the team that I used. We used Laura in the base form, just Riku's pouch basically, and she has 50 or some fire resist and light resist, 100 light resist and 20 or better fire resist, and then some fill rate. The fill rate is honestly not important because I was going to try to shift that. You can't actually, because there's no one on the chain on the. Yeah, the fill rate in the base form is not important, so ignore that. Like I said, early draft, I'm still optimizing. So all she really needs in the base form is 20 fire and 100 light resist. And Riku's pouch helps with the eccentric buff. Shift form, damage, 20 or better fire resist. We don't need any other resist. So there we go. So we mirage the light attacks in the beginning of the fight, and then starting on turns 8, 9, or 7, 8, and 9, when she's shifted, she's got 50 evade naturally, and then we've got negative 50 accuracy from Louise's Magnus, so the boss can't hit her on turns 7, 8, and 9 anyway. So or is it actually? Let me look at my chart. I actually closed my chart already. Or is it 8, 9, and 10? No, it's 8, 9, and 10 were shifted. Yeah, not turn 7. Anyway, pure damage with 20 fire resist. We're getting the fire resist from Fighting Dad. It gives attack power with the gun and fire resist. And there's her build, and she's maxed on everything. Maxed human and maxed LB damage. Louise in the base form is using lots of LB fill and some light resist as well as fire resist. We cure her in peril with her power amplify thing, so she's good. I kind of went too high on light resist, but all she needed is 100 light resist. Technically, I went a little bit high on light resist. Anyway, some LB fill, percent fill, Call of the Wild paintbrush, so we can get her LB filled up on turns 2 and 4. Although because I swapped Ling in, Ling can fill her very easily. I was originally trying it with Zahn and Ling's spot, and we needed lots of fill on Louise, but Ling makes it way less RNG. Anyway, shift form. Again, we don't need light resist because we either mirage it. And same thing, on turns 8, 9, and 10, we're using negative accuracy on the boss. So 50 evade is all she needs, and she has 50 evade naturally. So just 20 light resist. There's her gear. She did her LB on the kill turn. And yes, there it is. Maxed everything. Maxed human and maxed LB damage. Sephiroth in the base form is using Lion Emblem. Other than that, he is geared for 160 light resist. We're not using any light resist buffs whatsoever. That way he's immune even with the Imperil still up. We don't dispel him on turn 4. Although with this new strategy, I should dispel him on turn 4. Why am I not dispelling him on turn 4? I absolutely should. I don't know. Old strategy. I'm going to be optimizing throughout the week. That's... I know why. It's an old strategy. Anyway, he's got fire and light resist in the base form. Shift form, damage. No resist whatsoever. That's why on turn 1, if the boss does AoE fire while we're stacking him, we just retreat. Here's his build. I could swap out GF extension for a fire resist materia. It's a very, very tiny DPS drop. The main reason we're doing the RNG is because of Tifa, not Sephiroth. And there his build, Kaplan, everything. Yeah, so he does damage. Let's come back to her in a second. So Tifa in the base form, same as Sephiroth, basically. In the base form, Sephiroth, I should mention, is Rage Beast Roar to single target dispel Laura on turn 4. But I might change that strategy. And then Tifa is Bushido Freedom, single wielding in the base form, Lion Emblem. Other than that, some fire and light resist. Shift form is, again, no resistance at all, which is why we need to RNG turn 1. And you could swap out her chest for a fire resist chest, but for me, that loses a lot of damage because she needs that attack power. She's at exactly 402 or 400% attack power, and swapping out the chest drops her attack power a lot for resist. So I didn't want to do that, so I just RNG'd it on turn 1. But if you want complete safety, give her 20 fire resist. Double hand build. There's her setup. Human killer, maxed on everything. Max that, and she does a lot of damage as well. We'll come back to that. Okay, so the base form of Aerith is using a lot of fire and light resist, passive provoke, full evasion, dual cast on Carbuncle with reflect and bar Farega learned. And there we go. Shift form, she did damage. Again, passive provoke, full evasion. 20 fire, and she can ignore light resist because she is evading. She also has a lot of LB fill, so she can get her LB back again. We use her LB on 8, and we need to get it again on turn 10. Once again, with Ling, it's guaranteed. If you're using Zahn to steal the buff, you don't have Ling to fill LB on turn 10, then you want some fill rate, and that's all you really need. And she does buffs and Fire Imbue, Fire Amplify, 400% stat buffs, tag chain with Tifa. And then Ling. Ling is using Zidane's STMR. Other than that, really, that's basically it. And then enough resistance to be immune. She does Mirage and LB fill on turns 1 through 4, 5 through 9. She sings Zidane's STMR. On the kill turn, she does a 150 human killer and fills LB gauge. If you want to play with RNG, you can swap her out for Zahn. Zahn would do 1,000 needles on turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. At that point, the fight is very RNG. You gotta get some RNG luck on evasion with Laura and Louise. You also need to get some extreme RNG to refill Laura's LB on the kill turn, which is I couldn't make it work. But I'm gonna keep practicing through the week. There's my initial clear. So based on my calculations on that clear, Louise did approximately 300 million damage. Laura did approximately 1.3 billion damage. Tifa did approximately 1.6 billion damage. And Sephiroth did approximately 1.4 billion damage. That's based on my calculations because we couldn't see the damage report. Anyway, I will see you at some point this week for a better clear on Odin, as well as some budget runs at some point as well. See you then.